2 squad cars pulled up in front of my house, lights flashing like it was a crime scene. An officer walked up, hand on his holster, and told me I'd been accused of endangering a child. My stomach dropped because 5 minutes earlier, all I'd done was install a smart lock on my pool fence. And here's the kicker. My security camera showed the child in danger was actually the HOA president's teenage son, trespassing in my yard. Act 1. The beginning of trouble. My name's Trevor Langley. I'm in my 40s, I work in IT, and I moved to Bradshaw Ridge for a little peace and quiet. A decent house, a fenced pool, weekends, working on the yard. It wasn't much, but it was mine. But peace and quiet don't last long when you've got an HOA president like Winona Bradshaw breathing down your neck. 2 years back, when I first put in my pool fence, she tried to block it, said it wasn't community standard. I fought her, took it to the county, and won. Ever since then, I've had a target on my back. So when I added a smart lock to that same pool fence for safety, nothing more, I knew she'd have something to say. Sure enough, she stormed up my driveway, clipboard in hand, yelling about illegal surveillance devices and unauthorized modifications. I tried to stay calm. I told her flat out, this was approved by the county. I have the permits. She sneered and stormed off. 5 minutes later, sirens, 2 squad cars, cops telling me I'm accused of endangering children. That was the moment I knew she wasn't just petty. She was dangerous. When I pulled up my camera feed to show the officers, my blood boiled. There was her son Calb climbing over my fence, wandering around my pool. He wasn't invited. He wasn't allowed. And yet his mother was the one calling 911, framing me like I'd done something criminal. Act 2. Escalation and doubt. I filed a report, told the police this was harassment, that Winona used her son to stage a fake emergency. They nodded politely, took notes, said they'd follow up. But I knew how these things go. She was president of the HOA, she had influence, and I was just one guy with a camera. The next day I got a knock on the door. A so-called HOA attorney, slick suit, smug smile, handed me a notice, $3,250 in fines, plus a hearing date at the clubhouse. I checked the county system. Nothing. No record of those fines. It was fake. Fabricated to scare me. That night I sat at my kitchen table staring at the notice. My chest felt tight. I thought, maybe she's right. Maybe I can't win this. Maybe it would be easier to just pay and move on. For the first time I wondered if I was the crazy one fighting over a lock, a fence, a principle. I pictured losing my house, my savings drained by legal bills. I felt stupid small, like I was being crushed by a machine that didn't even have to follow its own rules. I almost gave up. But then I remembered that footage, her kid scaling my fence, her voice screaming into 911 about child endangerment. And it clicked. If I backed down now, she'd know she could do this to anyone. It wouldn't stop. So I decided I wasn't backing down. Not this time. I gathered everything, video footage, timestamps, the fake notice. I went to the police, filed another report. This time I asked them to escalate it to the district attorney. That's when the tide started to turn. A city council member reached out, said he'd heard about irregularities with Bradshaw Ridge HOA. He asked if I'd share my evidence. Turns out I wasn't the only one. And then came the bombshell. A neighbor named Marcus sent me drone footage. It showed Winona's own pool, no lock, no security at all. She was accusing me of being unsafe while her backyard was the real hazard. Piece by piece, the cracks in her armor started to show. Act 3. The showdown. The hearing at the clubhouse felt more like a trial. Winona sat at the front with 2 board members flanking her like bodyguards. Her son Calb sat smugly in the back, scrolling his phone. She opened the meeting with a speech dripping in venom. This homeowner, she said, pointing at me, has endangered children, violated community standards, and refused to comply with HOA safety regulations. The room buzzed. Neighbors muttered, shook their heads. Some believed her. Others weren't so sure. Then it was my turn. I walked to the front carrying a thick binder and a flash drive. My voice shook at first, but I steadied it. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, you've been lied to. I plugged in the flash drive. The projector lit up. On the screen, Calb climbing my fence, clear as day, time-stamped, followed by Winona's 911 call minutes later. Gasps filled the room. Someone whispered, "That's trespassing." Another said, "She used her kid." Winona stood up, red-faced, sputtering. "This is out of context." I cut her off. "Out of context? Let's look at more." Click. The drone footage of her pool, no lock, wide open. Click. The city councilman's email confirming a financial audit was underway. Click. The supposed fine notice compared side by side with official county records. The county's system blank. Her notice fabricated. By now, the board members flanking her were sliding their chairs back like rats abandoning a sinking ship. Neighbors stood up angry. "We pay dues for this." She framed him. She risked her own son. And then the moment that sealed it, a uniformed officer stepped into the room. He announced that the sheriff's office had opened an investigation into HOA finances, citing evidence of fraud, misuse of funds, and false reporting. The room erupted. Some people cheered, others shouted, but all eyes went to Winona. She looked pale, her hand shaking as she clutched her binder. Then she bolted, grabbed her purse, shoved past people, stormed out the door. The HOA crumbled that night. People started signing a recall petition right there in the clubhouse. Closing. I walked out into the cool night air, exhausted but finally free. For months I'd felt like I was the crazy one, like maybe I should just give in. But the truth is, giving in only feeds bullies. And in the end, all it took was shining a light on the truth.